every one of your relationships will go through what's called one of these reflections, one of these mirrors. Every one of your relationships is designed to wake you up to the next level of being present in the moment, self-awareness. When you know that every relationship will be one of these 7, it helps you graduate the ones that came around for a reason. And many of our relationships we hold on to for seasons longer than they're meant to be held on to. Mm-hmm. And I want to share that another way. Every person that is entering your life and every life that you enter is a cosmic appointment to some degree. And I understand this from my near-death experiences. I also understand this from learning chakras and from understanding that energy moves in us, energy moves in you when you're in a relationship. Everything either informs you or affects you. When it affects you, you've got to understand that you might not be seeing clearly. This is the ways to clear off your mirror, ways to see the world more clearly, the way to dive into your medical, intuitive healing abilities for yourself involve really being able to see that every person, the first thing that you're likely to notice. So funny, I need water for my throat, excuse me. To me, that means a healing is coming in. When there's this urge, all healing, that which we are like. So the first thing that you notice about your partner, your beloved, or someone you meet, especially when you're a joy-filled, intuitive, intentional person, you're going to see the ways in which you're alike. That's the first mirror. We all have that. Children see that. It's so beautiful to watch children play and become alike. I can't wait for you guys to watch this video on playback. A little angel just came and made itself known here. When you watch this during this section, I'm looking forward to you seeing the angel. That which we judge is the second. That which we judge. So then the second part you notice about anyone or is the part that is different from you. So when I first met Greg, all of the similarities, oh my gosh, love music, love environment. That was one of my favorite things about Greg. He recycled. He noticed that I loved children and that I was very much a comedian. Everywhere we went, people were cracking up. Those were the ways that we were alike. Then we made a baby and moved in together and had all kinds of that which we judge. Greg noticed I had a lot of stuff and he was a minimalist. I had a lot of baggage and energy, right? All of the things that he judged. I saw for him, his clothing wasn't my fashionista self. All of the things that I judge. And whatever I judge is an internal value within myself. It's something that I generate and create order around. So any area, it's really, really, so I met Greg. We noticed all the likeness. We judged each other. Then gives back what we gave away. In this relationship, I gave away my voice a long time ago. Greg helped me generate my voice. It was a transgenerational giving away a voice that we women have done in the past. In my culture, and my grandmother's voice was open, but only in the way that she would not have ever gone on national television, or she would not have shared. She would be comfortable individually, but unless it was to honor a grandkid or something like that, she wouldn't. Greg gave me back my grandmother's voice. My grandmother is on national television, right? And in all of the places, that which we give away in whatever lifetime, that third mirror, the ones that are in your life for a lifetime. And literally, anyone you choose to love in your heart, in your mind's eye, in your body, you don't actually have to physically do anything, right? To love another human being. You can love them with your whole heart without ever speaking to them again. It's a superpower. And so you can choose a person for a lifetime and never connect with them, because you leave it up to God and say, God, if you ever want this person back in my life, bring it in a way, in a healthy, synergistic way that I know it could only come from you. God, source, love, the universe gives back to us what we give away. That's the third process. What you truly give away, what's meant for you, truly comes back. The fourth is reflects back our most forgotten love. Oh my gosh. Greg helped me remember that I wanted to have 12 children before I was broken or wounded, that I loved the energy of what that brings forward, whether it's adoption or whether it's, but we've got more than 12 kids, right, in our field that we get to reflect back our most forgotten love. Our children, I wanted to have kids. Greg wanted to have kids. He literally did the third step. He gave away to God the idea. This is one of the things that we're going to do at the Mount Shasta retreat. Baby, I want to unmute your audio just for a second.
Okay.
And I'd love for you to share where you share the exercise on letting go, and bring spotlight the camera on yourself as you explain this. The work that you gave up, you created a vision, right? And there was no doubt. There was no doubt. Can you spotlight yourself and then share that?
Give me 1 second here. All right. So what is it you want to know now?
So do you remember the no doubt exercise that you did 2 weeks before meeting me?
Well, it was a couple months before meeting you. That was in March probably, and I met you in June. So
June. You
or
bought
July 10th.
July. You bought a new car 2 weeks maybe before meeting me. Maybe that was.
I went back to Minnesota and said goodbye to Cindy 2 weeks before, my ex-wife. Yeah.
Okay. Can you share that story?
Share that story, okay?
Can you highlight yourself, please?
Well, I see myself front and center, so I don't know what to.
The camera is lit on me, but that's okay.
I'm spotlighted, so it should be me. Alrighty. So I was in this big transformational space, and I was in Nashville as a singer-songwriter, and I moved there after being separated and then getting divorced from my first wife, and then after spending a couple years healing, I went back to my Minnesota, and I spent an afternoon with my ex-wife and her new husband at their cabin. And they had all their friends over there, and none of them knew I was her ex-husband. They didn't share that. So I played all these heartbreak, divorce, my soul is crushed songs. Everybody's in tears. It was a big catharsis. And then at the end of the evening, they brought me back, because it was on an island on Lake Minnetonka. So they brought me back to shore, and we were talking, and they asked, if you think you ever get married again? And I was like, no, I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then as they were leaving, they were holding hands, and they turned to each other and kissed. And that visual and seeing that display of them two kissing, it broke within me what I would describe as my obligation to take care of her. So once that happened, I knew in that moment I was no longer obligated to take care of her, and the cord was cut. And then that was late June, and then, like I say, July 10th, 2003, that's when I met Sarah, just a couple weeks after that.
Thank you, baby, for that story, because it's so, and then you can spotlight me back, because that gives, right? You give back what we gave away. You gave it back to God. You gave it back to Source. You go through this process and you do this, and reflects back our most forgotten love, right? A little bit prior to that, you did an exercise with a group of men that sent a signal out into the universe that there was no doubt. And then you went into no doubt of the future that you were going to live, no doubt of moving to California, no doubt in becoming a writer, an author, a performer, all the things that you are so beautifully from the time. And you were living in Nashville when I met you. 2 weeks prior, you gave back, right? Mm-hmm. And then what was given to you, you set her free. You set your ex free, you cut the cords. Then the fourth mirror reflects back our most forgotten love. Greg went into the process of really, what do I love? What do I have no doubt around? What can I create? And he created that so beautifully. And because of all of this energy, all of this field, his life transformed. Greg, how would you describe that period?
I would describe it as just kind of like really intentional alchemy and transformation.
Intentional alchemy and transformation. This is what we do on our miracle making retreats. This is what we have coming up. This is what you get to experience right now, because you can create the cord cutting. You can create the reflects back our most forgotten love. When I met Greg, when Greg met me, both of us said, hey, we're never getting married. We were coming from a wounded space. We'd given that up, but we were in the energy of giving back what we gave away and reflecting on what we love most. Those mirrors were coming, and so it brought us together in a miraculous way. The fifth mirror reflects back our parents. And so oh my gosh, the harshest fights that some of the times that Greg and I would have would bring in, you're just like your mom, or you're just like your dad, right? Reflects back our parents. Or you remind me of my mom, you remind me of my dad. And that's those sentences that everything either informs you or affects you. When you're in a relationship with a beloved and they share something like that, what they're sharing is, there's a transgenerational healing that's available here. There's something triggered here. Anything that affects you is not your fault. But once it affects you, you get the opportunity to do the transgenerational healing so you don't pass it on to the children. You don't pass it on to the kids. It's quite beautiful. The hardest part is the dark night of the soul. And it's incredible that you can go through this with someone, the dark night of the soul. But it's in relationships. Quite often, people, doctors, lawyers, the CEOs that find me are going through their own personal dark night of the soul, no longer have the ability to see themselves clearly. And that dark night of the soul, the process that brings you into the light is identifying all of your shadows. And the shadow work is so beautiful. And to go back through the other mirrors, right? When you're working with the mirrors, when you're working with that energy, a person can bring to you the dark night of the soul. For me, Greg was in Minnesota. I was in Los Angeles. I was working in a nonprofit, and I keep long hours anyway. But one particular night, we were working on a project, and it was about to come to, we were on a deadline, and I was planning to fly back to Minnesota. And so I fell asleep working on the couch at some point I woke up and I was being molested. And it was a horrific experience. To wake up, and the man that was the head of the nonprofit, we'd done so much great work together. It was really awful. I believe had roofied me. So I lost my connection to my body. And it threw me into months of turmoil, the dark night of the soul. And I got 4 counselors to work with me every week because I knew self-awareness. I knew I had created that. It wasn't my fault, but I created it because there was a small segment in my subtle energy that said, that wouldn't happen on my watch. What happened to me, my parents still had some itty bitty titty responsibility there. I knew I carried that subtle energy. I tried to let it go in other ways, but I hadn't let it go. I was aware of that already. This happened, and I fully understood that the dark night of the soul, I wanted to fully forgive them, but I did all of the work necessary to excavate it so that it doesn't transfer. The transgenerational wounding doesn't transfer to our kids, to my daughter, to my son, right? The dark night of the soul, it was really dark. The beginning, I forgot that how wounding and how hurt and how much pain it was in that experience. It was really hard. Greg was in Minnesota. I was in Los Angeles. It was very, again, that there's no words that can describe the dark night of the soul for you. When you're in it, you know it. You know what it's like. Your emotions are flooded. Your body is shut down. You still have to help people. You still have to do what you have to do, but you might not be able to do it. That dark night. And then the 7th mirror is self-perception. Everything is perfect, right? I can stand here and I can tell you all of these very challenging experiences. When I first shared that, I would be in puddles, but I'd share it because I wanted you to have the wisdom that came with understanding, wow, I needed to create a ceremony, a subtle energy release of that deep forgiveness for my parents, that deep forgiveness of my own body, the shame that was still being carried, right? Self-perception, everything is perfect. That's where you get to the level where everything is information and you're able to view it as if you're viewing a map on the ground and little cars moving in a game. Everything is perfect. So if there is an ex-love that comes into your mind, right? If there is someone that has lifetimes you might have spent together, or just such closeness to your heart, the first thing within yourself is to say, God, I'm good at loving. I choose to love myself for loving this being. I choose to be okay with, I loved them at one point because I was doing the reflection or the mirror work. And to breathe that in, to go, wow, this is what I liked about them. This is what I liked. Oh, this is what I judged about them. And then to add that to, I value this. So I judged Greg for the clothing that he was wearing, right? Striped shirt with, anyway, I don't have to describe his fashion sense. You've seen it. I'm so funny with myself at this moment. Anyway, this, what you value, I value fashion. Notice his value sense. I am now at everything is perfect with his fashion sense, right? What I value, understanding, it's so superficial, but I mean it on a deeper, deep level. Really, what did you judge? It will help you understand your own shadows. My shadow was, I'm not good enough unless I am showing up with the perfect eyebrows and the perfect makeup and the matching clothes and the accessorized. I can't be in your presence, my fully activated self, right? That used to be a thought. Now I've shown up on camera in various places without makeup. I've worked through my self-judgment of myself. You've got to work through, each person is showing up for you for a healing. It doesn't mean that you have to stay related to them, but if you do the work, you wind up getting synergy with every person that displays the same pattern that they did. So you look at what you judged about them and you understand your own value system. You give back what we gave away. So, right, if you said, oh my gosh, I loved them and I wanted them to have everything because I wanted us to wind up together, that's the only reason I gave it to them. You imagine yourself literally giving it to them and being a conduit from God, source, the universe, as a delivery system. And you say, thank God I could give it to them. And you cut the cords with expecting anything back. Then you move into reflect back our most forgotten love. And you dive into that energy so beautifully. You step into love with yourself, love with what you are able to give away, and you step into, I'm going to carry everything that they did with God, source, love, the universe. It's going to help me carry. I don't need to understand everything that happened, but I'm going to carry it. And then you bring it back to wanting to connect with the generations, 7 generations forward, 7 generations back. In neuro-linguistic programming, in the sessions that I do on transgenerational healing, we will give back to your parents, give back to each individual what you wish they had in the etheric field, so that it restores your experience in your genetics from that level. It's a beautiful process. Reflecting on the dark night of the soul, right? If you're in it, you know you're in it. And you can cycle through these 7 mirrors with different people to where you get to everything is perfect. Those are the Essene, that's a quick rundown of that work. It's so beautiful to dive into it on a deeper level. We have a 2-hour class within Miracle Makers on the Essene Mirrors for you.